Before you travel to Europe in 2026, there is something you should know. Because on the surface, nothing has changed. The cities are still beautiful. The streets are still alive. The cafes still spill out into the sidewalks. From Paris to Prague, from Rome to Amsterdam, Europe still feels like the place you imagined. But beneath that experience, something quiet is shifting. Something you may not notice at first, until it slows you down, until it costs you more, until travel begins to feel just a little less effortless. And it starts the moment you arrive. For years, entering Europe was simple. A passport, a stamp, and you were in, but that is changing. The European Union is introducing something called the entry-exit system. You may not hear about it much, but you will feel it. Because instead of a quick stamp, your entry will now be recorded digitally. Your fingerprints, your facial scan, your exact time of entry and exit, every movement tracked more precisely than before. And while this may seem like a small upgrade, it changes the rhythm of travel. Airports may take longer, queues may move slower, and the sense of simply arriving becomes a process, not complicated, but no longer invisible. For many travelers, this is not just theory, it is already happening. At some airports, people have waited for hours just to enter. Long lines, slow systems, confusion at the counters. In Spain, some travelers even missed their flights, not because they were late, but because the process took too long. At other airports, delays of 3 to 4 hours have already been reported. And this is still early. The system is not fully in place yet, which means what feels like a temporary inconvenience may soon become normal. Even in everyday conversations, travelers are starting to expect it. More queues, more checks, more waiting. Not dramatic, but noticeable. And that is how travel changes. Not suddenly, but slowly until the experience feels different. And this is only one part of the story. The second change is quieter, but you will feel it more directly. The cost of staying, you book a hotel online. The price looks reasonable. But by the time you check out, the total is different. City taxes, service fees, cleaning fees, resort fees in places that are not even resorts. Charges that appear later, not at the beginning, sometimes small, sometimes not, but almost always unexpected. These are often called junk fees, not illegal, not completely hidden, but not obvious either. And they change how travel feels. Because what you thought you were paying is not what you actually pay. So what can you do? Not to avoid travel, but to move through it more clearly. First, slow down when you book. Do not stop at the first price you see. Look for the final amount. Taxes included, fees included. If it is not clear, assume there is more. Second, prefer clarity over cheapness. Sometimes a slightly higher price upfront is actually the honest one. And honesty saves you more than discounts. Third, give yourself time at borders and airports. The new systems are not designed for speed. They are designed for control. So your experience depends on how prepared you are to wait. And finally, adjust your expectations. Travel today is not the same as it was 10 years ago. It is more connected, more monitored, more structured, and in some ways more expensive. But none of this removes the beauty. It only changes how you move through it. Because the real experience of travel was never just about how easy it was. It was about how present you are. You can still walk through a quiet street in the early morning. You can still sit in a small cafe and watch the world pass by. You can still stand in front of something ancient and feel its weight. That has not changed. What has changed is everything around it. So before you travel to Europe in 2026, do not just plan where you will go. Understand how you will move. Because the more you see the system, the less it controls your experience. And the more your journey feels like your own.